Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to do a Christmassy striped tumbler with a lot of mixed patterns. So I'm going to start out with a glittered tumbler here. This is a 20-ounce skinny straight tumbler. And into my first coat of epoxy, I mixed a little bit of Brite from Peachy Olive Glitters in to create that little cheat glitter method. So I did my one coat of epoxy. It was about 20 to 25 milliliters. And now I'm going right into mapping out my stripes. I'm going to do 4 stripes on my tumbler. Each of them is going to be about 2 inches in width. So I've got my 1-inch painter's tape here, and I'm starting at the top rim of the tumbler, and I'm just wrapping 2 pieces of tape right up next to each other to create that first 2-inch section. Then next I'm going to go in with just 2 smaller pieces of painter's tape. We don't need to wrap this section of tape all the way around the cup because this is going to be where the first stripe that we put down goes. So I'm just putting 2 of those pieces of tape down so that I can get this third row placed in the right way, or the right place. So I repeated those 2 stripes, and now I'm going to work on my first stripe section. So we're going to do the second and the 4th stripe first, because those are the ones that we have exposed. So for this bottom section, I'm going to take this super cute buffalo check ornament semi-transparent vinyl. This is from BAMF Custom Creations, and I just cut a little stripe here out of that vinyl, and I'm just cutting away the partial ornaments from the end so that it looks like we have a seamless wrap all the way around the cup. So once I've done that, I'm going to take a piece of painter's tape and I'm going to adhere one end of my vinyl to my tumbler so that we can essentially use the hinge method to apply this stripe to the cup. And once we've got the vinyl wrapped all the way around the cup, we're just going to cut off the excess where those 2 ornaments would overlap. So it looks like, again, we have this nice seamless wrap all the way around the bottom of the tumbler. And then I'm going to take my craft knife and I'm going to run it along the bottom edge of that top piece of tape where we've got those ornaments overlapping over our tape. And I'm just going to follow that tape line to cut that excess off from the ornaments. And that will leave us with a really nice clean bottom stripe. For the second stripe down on our tumbler, we're going to use some really cute kind of plaid-y vinyl from the vinyl Cottage. And we're going to make this again 2 inches wide, just the same as all of our other stripes. So I took my little measuring tape, measured out 2 inches, and now I'm going to cut that down with my paper trimmer. And this little section that we cut out should perfectly fit within that stripe that we have mapped out with our painter's tape. So I'm going to start by putting that stripe right in the middle of the tumbler to make sure that it's going to fit, and then I'm going to cut away a little bit of the backing the same way I always do when I do a vinyl wrap. The stripes are the same, just on a much smaller scale. So then I'm going to wrap the rest of the vinyl around the tumbler to make sure that everything is going to line up and fit in the right way. Now I cut this a little smidgen too big, so I'm going to remove this top piece of painter's tape once I've got the vinyl where I want it to go and where it's all placed, because it overlapped that painter's tape just a little bit. So I wanted to remove that to make sure that this piece of vinyl will just fit and that we didn't have to cut off any excess. It's all going to end up looking the same anyway. If we're off by like a tiny little bit, no one will be able to tell. So I'm just going to cut this away, and then we will wrap this sheet of vinyl around the cup. For the third stripe on our tumbler, we're going to use this super cute vintage classic Santa pattern vinyl. This is called Secret Santa, and it's from Flynn Sister Supply Shop. This vinyl came in the Holly Jolly vinyl pack that released recently. Now this pack won't be re-released until January, so if you don't have this pack, you can use literally any pattern you want. The entire point of this tumbler design is to use patterns that you wouldn't automatically put together. It's kind of just like a, maybe almost like an ugly sweater type thing. Like, just take patterns that you would never put together and put them together and see what happens. That's what I did with this, and I really love how it turned out. So you can use literally any vinyl patterns that you want. Just go for it and see what happens. Now this little section of vinyl was, I think, the hardest for me to do because I had to cut it down multiple times to get that 2 inches because I thought, oh, I just won't measure, I'll just cut it down, because I wanted to make sure obviously that we had our Santa faces as full as we can get them within this 2-inch section. So I cut them down a lot, and then I placed this stripe on the tumbler the same way I did the top one. So in the end, we ended up with 2 opaque stripes, like opaque vinyl stripes in the middle, and then we've got semi-transparent vinyl on the top and on the bottom. Of course, because your entire tumbler is glittered, you can use all semi-transparent vinyl. You can not glitter your tumbler and just do all opaque vinyl. There are no rules to this design. Just do whatever you want. I'm serious. So like I said, for this top stripe, we're going to use another sheet of semi-transparent vinyl. This is also from BAMF Custom Creations. And I'm going to, just like I did with the ornaments, I'm going to kind of cut around those shapes so that we don't have any partial shapes. Now, of course, we will have a little bit because we're going to cut off the excess from the top rim, but I really want to keep as many of these leaves and holly pieces as full as possible because I don't want it to look like we just mishmash things together. Like, I really want to conceal the seam is my main thing and just make this look like it fits within this space the right way. So I cut around all the shapes, and now I'm going to wrap it around the cup, make sure that we have ideal placement of everything. And then again, like I did with the ornaments, I'm just going to cut around these little half cut shapes. Now, because these are leaves, it's a little bit easier to mess with them and kind of keep them partial and make it look a little bit more seamless. So once I've done that, I'm going to cut away a little bit of the backing from the vinyl, as you can see there. And I'm just going to apply this stripe the same way I did the opaque ones. I didn't do the hinge method for this one. So whatever method is easiest for you to get the vinyl on cleanly with minimal bubbles and get everything straight, do that method. I always mix it up and just do different stuff depending on how I'm feeling. So whatever you're comfortable with is what I recommend that you do. So once I had that sheet of vinyl on, I went through around the top rim and I cut off all of the excess vinyl, just making sure that I don't have any wrinkling or bubbling or anything at the top rim. We want to keep that really, really nice and smooth. So I'm cutting with my knife, cutting at about a 45-degree angle so that we get a little bit of the vinyl that's on the body of the tumbler so we can establish that really thin line to form the epoxy seal. It's not so much that you can see it and that it's like glaringly obvious that you cut that far down, but you want to cut that far so that you don't have vinyl hanging up over the top of your top rim, if that makes sense. And then I'm also going to cut off the excess vinyl that is hanging over this second stripe that goes a little bit over that edge. Again, just pretending like this is painter's tape maybe, or following that same line of the vinyl to cut as straight of a line as possible. And then we'll just get rid of this excess vinyl and move on to our next step. Now at this point, if you'd like to, you can add a coat of epoxy over your vinyl to seal everything in and give you a really smooth surface to add your striping. I decided to just go right in with my first set of striping now before adding any epoxy. I probably should have done a coat of epoxy, but whatever. I'm going to use this champagne gold textured metallic vinyl from Teckwrap Craft in between each of my stripes, and I cut these, I believe, at 0.15 inches in width, and I'm just going to place them, as you can see there, in between each of my stripes to make everything look a little bit more polished and finished. Now, for some reason, my phone decided not to record the next step, but basically what I did was mix up about 25 milliliters of my Flynn Sisters Fast Cure Epoxy. And I took some of that, maybe about 15 milliliters, and just applied that to the tumbler like normal. And then with the remaining epoxy, I took some Parabatai from Peachy Olive Glitters and just spread that throughout the stripes to add an overall kind of cohesive sparkle. That step is completely optional. You do not have to do that, but I just wanted to add a little bit extra something on top of the vinyl. So once that coat of epoxy was all cured, I went in and added my second round of vinyl striping. So I'm using this really pretty kind of satin chrome matte vinyl. This is from Teckwrap Craft, and I cut these stripes at 0.1 inches in width, I believe. And I'm going to put these on top of and below those champagne gold metallic stripes that we placed. Again, totally optional. You don't have to do this. I just wanted to add a little bit of extra something to this design. Once I had those red stripes placed, I added my final 2 coats of epoxy and we were all done. So this is it for this design. If you wanted to add a decal, you absolutely can, but with all of the different patterns going on here, I felt like a decal would just be too much. So anyway, I really hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. Of course, let me know what you think down below in the comments, and be sure to check out the description box for links to everything I used in this video, along with discount codes, a link to join my elite mentorship group, link to follow me on social media, and all that fun stuff. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Okay, love you. Bye.